Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Always Tell Me the Odds, a Star Wars Unlimited podcast. I am Marcus, or Faluin, and with me today, as usual, is Magnus. Hello, Magnus.
Hello.
Also known as Dragonfly. Forgot to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Everything's good today?
Everything's good. Yes,
Everything's good.
It's a nice Saturday afternoon, so it's great.
It is. It's really nice. So we have another episode coming up today. But what have you done last week since the last episode? Star Wars Unlimited related.
Yeah, since we last recorded, I guess we had our weekly play.
True,
last
on Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a new player coming in.
That was a lot of fun
to get to know him. Was a super nice guy.
A deck that I've never seen before, and my first match against him was I got destroyed. He told me that he had been playing against his wife before, so he was so happy to find us. So his wife was also happy. And I was like, okay, so he's pretty new to the game, and he just completely destroyed me. He played Darth Vader green, but the cards were
it's quite fun that you said you never seen the deck before, because it's one of the decks from the first set.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Darth Vader.
People played Darth Vader green from the first set.
Yeah,
but he made a deck from all the sets. I think it was quite well. He destroyed me, won the game as well, or it was a close game, but it was he won it. So it was super fun to play.
It was a lot of fun.
Always nice when new players come in.
For sure.
So
yeah.
But so I guess started to test a bit, try out what I'm going to two showdowns next weekend.
Yeah.
So or actually, I guess this weekend when you listen. No, next weekend.
No, next weekend. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, next weekend. Yeah. I got confused on when we dropped this episode, but that it will be next weekend when people listen to this.
Yeah, it's a little confusing when we record and when we release, and it's like
yeah. So it's just trying out different types of decks and so on.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. It's like I've been playing my Ray Tarkintown a lot, especially coming up to the PQ in Copenhagen that we were at. And after that, I was like, maybe I should try to look into something else also. So I try to figure out what other leaders would I like to play, and what is my style of playing that some people ask me sometimes. I was like, I don't know. But so I've been thinking a little bit about that. But also I'm going to at least one of the showdowns that you are going to. So I've been thinking about bringing a new deck there. So I've been thinking about
trying out some new things. And I mean, that's something that you will learn what type of a player you are.
Yeah.
And maybe only play mid-range or control or aggro in the future. Or perhaps you're a player that likes to play all of the different types of decks. Yeah. There's so many different types of players. No two players are exactly the same in what they like to play or how they choose what to play, and that's part of the fun, playing with a lot of different players.
Yeah, for sure. I think
to see how everybody chooses to play the game.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll come back at that in the future in an episode, talking about what are the different kind of decks you can play, like the ones you said, like mid-range and aggro and control decks and so on.
Yeah. I think we can
go back to that. But
episode on that.
Yeah. But something I've been thinking about, also what we are going to talk a little bit about today, so the listeners know what we're going to talk about, is it is this. Where do you start? If you're a little bit new to the game, as I am, I've been playing kind of a, what is it, 4 months or so now, but I'm still super new to the game. So where do you start when you want to figure out what leader you want to play, or what aspects you want to play, or how do you start?
And I mean, you're not only new to this game, it's partly because you're new to TCGs.
Absolutely. No card games for me before.
Yeah. So I mean, that a lot of other players that maybe played Magic or something else before, they kind of know what kind of decks they like to play,
The
and
style, yeah.
if you played another TCG, you kind of know how to start building a deck, even if it's a different game. You like have done that before, and but for you, everything's totally new.
Everything's
So,
new.
yeah.
And
So
confusing.
I can imagine it's quite hard to,
Yeah.
if like you're starting to get to a new leader. How do I start? What do I choose?
Yeah.
What's yeah.
I mean,
So,
it means
I mean,
for me, what I've been doing is that I have just this is where I think that the digital versions of the game help me a lot, because I can just try out a lot. But I also, when I kind of narrow it down, I go into and look what cards I have and what cards I need to get, because I want to play the real physical game, actually, because that is way more fun. But to narrow it down. But where to start? So leader and base. I guess that's where
super hard, and I think you should take advantage of the digital age we're in, because when I started to play TCGs back in like 94 or 95, we played a bit of Magic.
Yeah.
There was no way to like get to see what other players, what other type of decks people played, and after a while they started to print like magazines with how people were doing in different tournaments and such. But like the only way to see new decks was to go to a play, like to a store and play with other people, and you saw that guy made a really cool deck. Maybe I should make a deck like that and try that out.
Yeah.
But today it's so easy to just go online, check out what are people playing, what type of decks. And I mean, I really have nothing against people net decking, like just taking a deck someone else made and trying that out.
Yeah.
I think that's a super great thing to do if you don't really know how to build a deck.
Yeah.
If like you're new to the game,
Yeah.
people that have played this game from the start, they've played TCGs for I don't know how many years. They're super good at making decks.
Yeah.
Let them make the deck, and then you can take the deck and you can try it out.
Yeah.
And then you can start maybe change it to fit your playstyle more, because it's just because they made a deck, there's nothing that says that that's the absolute best deck.
True.
To play.
I mean, that's what I
maybe your playstyle doesn't work exactly with that type of deck.
True. That's what I did with a Ray deck. I took, I don't know where I took Ray. I thought her ability sounded cool, and I started to try out different Ray decks. And the Ray deck Tarkin Town that I ended up going to the PQ with was actually a merge of 3 different Ray decks that someone else did, and I played with them and I adjusted them and merged them together somehow. But I can also say the digital, like the digital, to use the digital playing, if that was not available, I am very sure that I would not have stick to the game. I would not have bought any cards or anything like that, because I would just been overwhelmed, and I would just be like, there's too much. So I wouldn't go into it. But since that is available, that made me actually put all my salary into the cards right now.
It is a great tool to learn the game, try out different decks, because we're both I mean we're older. We're not young anymore.
We are old guys.
We have children. We have jobs. We have families and houses. And I mean, you don't get that much time to actually play the game in real life, or how you want to say it. Like
True.
That's of course it's the most fun way to play the game.
It is for
to
sure.
Me, at least.
Yeah.
Getting just play with
Yeah.
another player have a few laughs. That's
That's the best thing
definitely
for
the
sure.
most best thing to play.
When we meet up in the
But
in
when
the
you don't have that, the online play is super nice. To just
yeah.
you can give it like half an hour or an hour of your day when you have some time
Yeah. Some
to
spare time.
just log on, play some games, to choose what you're bringing to your next weekly play.
Yeah.
That's super good.
I mean,
So
I love when
think
we meet
yeah.
up on Thursdays in our local place there, and we just laugh and we have some tea together and we just play and try out different decks. And like this time there was a new guy coming in and we just took him in and like talked to him, and he joined us on our Discord, and so it's so nice. But it's also when I have I need to make dinner to my kids and I have a long day at work and it's so much going on, and we can't go there, and then it's nice to just sit down half an hour, just play some. And we play the guys who meet up physically and play, we play sometimes online just because we are not able to go somewhere and meet up. So I think
and
that's
I mean
really
we
good.
live quite far away from each other. It's not just takes a while to get to each other and set up and play. So if we just have half an hour or an hour to spare, you can just log online and play. So I really think that the online play is something that really helps the game. And I hope we'll have that opportunity in the future as well to keep playing online, because I think it really helps the game in every possible way. It can help the game. So
I think so too. So okay, so that is one thing that we can use. But where do we start? So
that's my first. I think that's my first. That's one of the tips.
One of the tips.
Don't be afraid to just take someone else's deck, and I mean, but then of course before you take a deck, you need to choose a leader. Something and how to choose the leader. Well,
how do you do that?
I mean, you can do it in a lot of different ways, I guess. We can just give some tips or some I mean how we do it, and I mean I guess everyone's different in how they choose a leader, but
for sure
for me it's I love Star Wars, so I usually start looking at the characters that I like, and then I've played a lot of card games, so I kind of know what type of decks I like to play. So for me, I guess it's easier to go like I lean always against towards mid-range and control decks. So the aggro decks, I quickly sort them out of my choosing process. I mean, for some other people, it's the opposite way. They really like the faster decks, so they go for that. So I guess that's a way to start.
So if you already know kind of what your play style is, you go for that again and you try out that.
And then you can try different leaders within your play style, maybe, and try out and before you take the step to start building your own decks, you can just take decks that other players build, or decks that do well in tournaments. If you like to play tournaments, that's always a good way to go. So I guess that
is actually a really good tip, actually, to play I mean, you need a deck first, but when you have a deck and you go on, you really get to meet a lot of different decks and a lot of different play styles when they go to tournament, like we talked about in the PQ episode. But so you go for what you know since before, you know kind of what leaders you are going to hone in on, and then you try those out.
And I mean, for me, it's it varies from time to time. Like now, I have two showdowns coming up. For me, showdowns are a very casual format. I don't really care if I do well in them. I consider myself a competitive player. I really like to compete, and in higher tournament structure, I really go to the tournament to try to win. But in a store showdown, I mostly go to play because it's fun.
Yeah.
And ultimately I play the game because it's fun, not to win.
Yeah.
So, and different players have different agendas or like different goals in the game,
For
of
sure.
course. But for me, so I could never take a deck just because it's good and go play a tournament or a weekly play. I really have to like the play style, like to play the deck. Otherwise, it's not for me. So
yeah, I think I'm a little bit
I
like
usually
the same there.
start with and I have I love to play underdog characters
Yeah.
and decks. If
It's a lot
someone
of fun.
says like, if someone says this leader is awful, no one can play this deck or this leader,
Then you really want to
like
build a deck with that.
triggers me. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you say no one can play this, so
I'll show you.
really like to, I really like to try out that. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
guess for me, now that I'm trying out decks for a showdown, maybe I'm going more towards what I really would like to play for just for the fun of it.
Going
Like,
for more exploration
really
around them.
I really love hard control. Even if it's not the best thing in the meta right now, maybe I'll bring a super control-y deck just because that's what I love to play.
I hate playing them, and I hate play against them.
I mean, it's maybe not the most fun thing to play against, but then again, I hate to play against aggro. So
Yeah,
different players like to
different
play
things,
against
sure.
different things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I
also
think...
this time around I actually I decided to try to play one of the leaders I have a showcase of. So
I know that's how you chose this time.
I'm quite limited this time because I have, I think it's 5 showcase leaders.
Oh, you have 5.
So these are and as I think I said, like the last episode we did, I've played a lot of Palpatine. And I have the Palpatine showcase, so I ruled that out. I'm not gonna play Palpatine this time. So I have four
others to choose
leaders
from.
left. Yeah,
I know you.
To choose from.
I know you said that to me. Like, so what are you going to play now? I will play someone that I have a showcase from. And I was like, okay, so that's not how I'm choosing. But I mean, I understand
you
what
choose your decks very differently.
Yeah, of course, because I understand what you are saying because you're a very experienced TCG player. You have been doing this for a lot of years, so you kind of know already what you're going to aim for. But when I come in, I am totally blank. I don't know at all what I'm going to play, but I have done that. Like you said, I have taken a lot of decks online and tried them out, and I kind of starting to see where to I lean and what I really don't like. And the reason why I started with Ray, the only reason I started with Ray, because I thought the card was beautiful. Because I got a hyperspace Ray in one of my first drafts, I think it was, or if it was sealed, I don't remember. But I really liked the card. It was such a beautiful card. I was like, okay, let's go with her. And her ability kind of sounds good. I had no clue, but then I started to do that, and I really, really enjoyed playing her. Then I have tried out a lot of other leaders, and now I always fall into like playing heroism, the white aspect, and it's always like a mid-range. I think they are. I think so. I don't really like to play those super control-y decks, but it's always like the blue aspect or the red aspect, and it's like I kind of know where to aim now. So what I am looking at now, it's like, I think they're a little bit more control-y than my Ray deck, but it's not super control-y, and it's definitely not cunning. The yellow aspect. I hate those cards.
That doesn't suit your style.
No.
I mean, you've also used a good like a good tool, and that's the all of our us on our play date, like our weekly plays. You've like asked, okay, so I like to play Ray. What like kind of similar leaders could I try out? And that's also a good way to, if you know, like if you played 1 or 2 decks and you know, okay, I really liked this type of deck.
Yeah.
Just like ask your friends, ask the people you play with, if they have any suggestions
Yeah.
of like a similar leader, or okay, if you like to play Ray, I'd say I think actually you'd probably like to play Luke as well. I
Yeah.
think he's kind of similar to the Ray playstyle.
Yeah.
So that's also I think a leader I think you should try out sometime.
I've actually not tried him out very much, to be honest, but I should do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I should do
Yeah, I
that.
think it could suit you. I
Yeah.
not 100%, but I think it's worth a try maybe.
I like playing Anakin, and I liked playing Mace, but I think that's because the decks are kind of exactly the same as the Ray deck, so I know them very well. But you need to play them a little bit different, and you need to like change some cards in there. But it's Anakin is a little bit more aggressive, at least in my head, and Mace, I don't know, it's just a fun character to play.
I mean, Anakin, you can play him quite. You can make that deck very controlly as well,
probably.
or you can make it quite aggressive. The like the white, blue, red Anakin deck.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you've played some Han 2, the red version as well. Right?
Yeah, I have.
And
yeah.
with and that also paired with the blue aspect.
Yeah,
so
true.
I guess red and blue heroism.
It's my jam. For sure.
For right now, for a start, that's a good way to go. Like, just try out different leaders within those colors, and then maybe switch it up and like exchange. You might not need to go from like red blue to green and yellow. Maybe
exactly,
you should like go red green or blue green. Blue green Luke is a deck that people played a while ago.
Yeah,
I think. Could be.
I think that's also the starter deck in the Spark of Rebellion.
It could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah,
I think it is.
So,
but it's but also there are some leaders that are easier when you're new to the game, and some leaders that are super hard. Because I don't like, for instance, to play Palpatine, because it's for me it's hard to understand how to play him, because it's kind of complicated. There's a lot of there's a lot of combinations you need to do with that. The same thing with the yellow Han Solo. What is that, Han 1, right? Where you can put in an extra resource and then you destroy the resource. And I just messed that up. I can't follow in my own head what I'm doing. So it's like I just end up not using the ability at all, because it's so confusing for me. But if I go for a leader like Sabine, it's mostly just like, I play my units and I attack the base. I don't have to think too much. And the same thing with Anakin. I can try to do as much damage as possible, but still control the opponent so they make damage to me until he comes out and he becomes a big one and then attack. So they are a little bit more straightforward. Same thing with Ray. It's pretty much straightforward. But there are some leaders that are super hard to start with, I think. Me as a newcomer to the TCG world, it's when they get too complicated with too many combinations, it's super hard.
I guess it's easier to start with aggro or control if you've never played these types of games, because the control decks are played quite different from, like, aggro and mid-range are more, as you say, straightforward sometimes, and not necessarily hard, like easier to play, or that the control decks are harder to play. That's more on a deck per deck. Like I'd say a really good aggro player is, of course, doing a lot better with an aggro deck than a bad control player is doing with a control deck. I don't think it's about, but I can see how it's harder to understand how to play like a control deck when you're new to a game like this, and as you are new to TCGs at all. So
because I
think that's a good thing to start with the mid-range, or when you teach the game to someone, aggro decks are easier to teach, because like as long as you play the unit and you attack the base, you're actually not doing anything wrong.
No, exactly.
From like how the deck wants to play.
Yeah.
But if you take like a Palpatine deck, or a really control-y Thrawn or Bosk, or just pick your control-y leader, and you start playing out your units and just attacking base, you'll lose
You
every
will
game.
lose, yeah.
So
I think
that's
I think there's a
much
bigger
harder,
difference. I think there's the difference between an experienced player and a new player in aggro decks. The difference between them are smaller than in a control deck, because in a control deck, an experienced player and a new player, they will never win with a control deck if they play it wrong, but a more experienced will do really well. But in an aggro deck, if I am a new person, I play an aggro deck, I can still win because it's like put it out your units and attack the base, kind of. So I think the difference
so you can
between
explain that with like in an aggro deck the floor is higher than in a control deck. So
what does that mean?
That means, so if you measure it with, if you play the worst game you've ever played, you're at the floor level.
Oh,
like,
okay.
You can take your
okay.
and then like the ceiling is the best if you have the best player playing his best game ever, like that's the ceiling of the deck, and the deck performs as good as it could do.
Okay.
So an aggro deck has a higher floor, because even if you play it very like extremely bad,
it's still
as
pretty
long
good.
as you actually play, just as long as you still play the game, like you play out your units and you attack their base, that like you could win games. But if you take a very controlly deck, that floor is
super
very
low.
much lower. Because if you take that deck and do like try to play it like an aggro deck, you'll lose every game probably.
That makes sense.
And then the ceiling could be equally high on both decks. It depends from deck to deck. Like a really good player with an aggro deck or a really good player with a control deck, the ceiling doesn't have to be higher or lower there. So it's more that, like as you said, it's easier to understand what you're supposed to do with an aggro deck than with a control deck. So the floor is higher.
Yeah, that makes
one.
sense. That makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
So if you so that is how you can kind of go into choosing a leader and a base. It's like the colors or the aspects, and then the like pick a leader that you think do you understand, and if you're new, a leader that is not too complicated and so. But if you want to build a deck, I mean, we now say also that if you're a new player, come in, take another deck, take a deck that already exists and use that. But if you want to understand how the deck works, or if you want to modify it or something like that, is there a way to think about ratios for units, events, and upgrades, or how should I use between ground units and space units? And it's like, is there like a sweet spot how to use that? I know you have told me couple of episodes ago that you should have at least like 9 or 10 2 cost or less, so you can play out something.
That's like starting to get almost to be a rule in this game, like because of it's a game that you want to use your resources every turn, always, like almost always. I'm not going to say always because there is exceptions, of course, but like mid-range and aggro decks wants to use their resources every turn. Like generally speaking, at least. So to be able to so the most important thing there is to have a two cost unit or an event, maybe like a Spark of Rebellion that takes a card from your opponent's hand, something to play turn 1. Because that's the hardest turn to have something to play, because you only have 2 resources. I mean on turn 5, when you have 6 resources, you're gonna have something to play probably, because you've drawn more cards, and you have more like your deck is spread between like 2, maybe 0 and 10 cost cards. So when you have 6 resources, you'll probably have something to play. But the first turn, you only have 2 resources, and you can only play 0, 1, or 2 cost cards. Generally speaking, again, because there are ways to cheat out cards earlier, but if you just take it from that, so if you have 9 2-cost cards that you're willing to play on turn 1 in your 50 card deck, you have over 95% chance of drawing one of them,
Mm.
when you include your mulligan.
Yeah.
So that's why if the deck wants to play a card on turn 1, you should have at least 9 cards that cost 2
or less.
Yeah, in your deck. Probably if you really want, like Sabine decks, the really aggro decks, they have, I don't know how many, but a lot more than 9. So
Right.
the chance that they wouldn't draw a card they can play turn 1 is extremely small.
Yeah.
However, there is exceptions. There is like super controlly decks don't usually care if they play a card turn 1 because they want to control the board. Maybe they just want to remove the opponent's cards. So they're just fine with taking the initiative or passing turn 1, and turn 2 they remove the first turn play from the other player and so on. So controller decks might not have these 9
more exceptions in control decks for sure.
Cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
More exceptions. I guess they don't really follow that rule, but if you're making an aggro or mid-range, it's a good spot. If you want to play a card on turn 1, you should have at least 9 to have a good chance of drawing one. I mean, that's and then like the ratio between ground and space units,
that's super hard.
I mean, there's no right or wrong answer there because it depends on the meta. It depends on what your deck wants to do, and the same thing is like comes with how many events or how many upgrades, how many units.
Depends on the deck.
It really depends on the deck and the meta and what you're aiming to do with the deck. So that's almost impossible to say where the sweet spot is. But
so, something I've been thinking about, because on Thursday when I played to this new guy who came in with a Vader deck, I played with my Ray deck and I played out my A-Wing, and he had no space units in his deck at all. So that A-Wing kind of destroyed him because he couldn't do anything about it. So
I actually think he had but not until because I think he had Ruthless Raider in the deck.
Yeah,
but that's
true.
not until 6 resources. So,
exactly.
But
so
he didn't have any early turns.
Yeah, exactly. Because A-Wing has 1 attack and then raid 2, so he always do 3 damage when he attacks, and then I boost him up 2 times with Ray, so he always attacks for 5. So it makes a lot of damage. And if you need to wait until Ruthless come out at 6 resources, that you have a lot of damage already on yourself. But that was something I've been thinking about. Is that there's not a lot of space units, like what I understand now when we play, because it's a lot of fighting on the ground. But that might change, actually. I just thought about that now. It's like it may change with sets 4 because there's way more space units coming now. So that will probably change how it will look like.
I mean, yeah, that's true. And I mean, you can have a super good deck that doesn't have any space units,
of course,
if you have a plan to get rid of the opponent's space units with like removal somehow or something like that. So it's not like you don't have to have them, but you have to know that there are 2 lanes in this game,
and you need to solve the space.
You need to have something to take care of both lanes. And I guess it's still a new game. Like, it's still young, and we only have 3 sets. And how the game is built is that ground units have a little more stats than space units right now. So it's been kind of natural to lean towards ground. Because you get a little more stats on the ground than in space. So if like 2 decks didn't remove or do anything to each other, just played out units and attacked, I guess a ground deck would win over the space deck probably every time, because they get more stats on the ground now. Then that's not the truth in actual play, because there is so much other things that depends.
Yeah,
so, because
for sure.
like there is a super good deck right now, like the Django Tarkintown deck, that's super focused on space, and it works really well because partly because of Django's ability to when a unit does damage to an opponent's unit, he can tap down that unit. So he can focus on space, maybe be almost alone in space, and he can tap down
the ground
or
units.
exhaust the opponent's ground units.
Yeah,
So
that's rough.
there is ways to go space, and as you said, the next set will be a lot of new space units. So this might actually change after the next set.
It might.
We don't know yet. Yeah.
No, I will come back to that for sure. For sure. Yeah. So, but I mean, there's no way. Of course, there's no way to say a sweet spot which cards to put in and so on. And I also think as a new player, I've tried to build some new decks from scratch, and it's almost impossible because it's so hard for me to do that. But it's to taking an already existing deck and manipulate it and change it and so on. That it's a lot of fun, and that is also how I learn how to like what events should I have, what upgrades, how many of them, and so on. But what do you go for when you? I mean, we have said it a little bit before, but do you look a lot about on the meta? So the meta is the most common decks played in tournaments and so on, which decks are doing well in competition. So are you going for metas, or are you just looking into fun decks? Or I mean, we touched on it before, but yeah.
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, for me, I have to really enjoy playing the deck to be able to take it to a tournament. So, of course, when I go to like a PQ or in the future when we might even go to a regional or even higher level of competition, I would love. I of course will go to try to win the tournament. So I really want a deck that's good in the meta.
Yeah.
But for me, unfortunately, I say sometimes, if like all the meta decks, all the good decks in the meta, if I don't like, if they don't suit my playstyle and I don't enjoy playing them, I'm not taking them to the tournament. I'm probably taking a worse deck and probably not doing as well as I could have done if I took a better deck. But that's just how I work.
Yeah.
And
or you just find an underdog hero and deck that is like everybody takes everybody by surprise, and I was like, holy shit, how will we deal with this one?
That's super sweet if you do that sometimes, actually. But then, I mean, for some people, it's more they enjoy playing most decks. So for them, like the game is to pick the right deck in the meta.
Yeah.
Like which of these 10, depending on how big like the meta is, how many good decks there are.
Yeah.
Like picking the right one and then playing that to the best ability they could do. And that's so everybody works a bit different when taking decks. And some people just go for the meme decks. Like taking, I love Finn as a character. I'm gonna play Finn in this PQ, knowing, like before going to the tournament that
he's not
they'll probably lose almost every game because it's a hero that doesn't really work right now. But they'll have fun as well. So
because they like the deck and whatever. Yeah, but it's also
like what we're trying to say with all of this is, there is no right or wrong how you choose a deck. It's like it's very personal in which way you should choose.
For sure.
But don't be afraid of like just getting help from other players or taking other players' decks and try that out and then changing it or like. Yeah.
It's a very social game in that way. It's like it's a super good community. So it's there was actually something I got very like happily surprised about how welcoming and friendly the whole community around the game is, and how helpful everybody is, and they're lending your cards and they're telling you where to buy cards, and it's like it's a lot of people helping you out there. But I would also say that even if we say that like take a deck that it already exists and and try it out and change from that. That's a good way to do it. But don't be afraid to build your own deck from scratch, because it is a lot of fun. I built one. I think I've said that before in a couple of episodes ago. I just decided, like, I want to buy I want to build a deck around the Mandalorian trait. And I did that. It sucked. I lost every game I tried on. But it was a lot of fun to build, and it was a lot of fun to play, because I built it in a way that I liked it. And also I want to keep refining that deck, because it's fun to do. So I would encourage people to try it out, because it's fun.
That's a very good point, because I also encourage everyone to try to build your own deck sometimes. Even if you, like me, I've played a lot. I know I'm not the best deck. I'm not the best in
the
making
deck building.
The decks, the deck buildings, but I enjoy it. So sometimes I go for it, and often that is when I take a leader that's real underdog. So there is not much help to get from the online scene, because no one's building
no one's playing it
for that leader. So
sure.
I don't have a choice. I have to do.
True.
But I really enjoy the journey of building that deck from the start, and trying to get it better and better, and getting help from you guys, from everyone's like, what should I change, what's not working, how can I do this better,
finding fun combinations and cards, and it's
so when you, as you said, when you get a little bit more safe in the space of playing the game, just try it out, you said, just this would be super fun to play. I'll build a deck. It may be, as you said, super bad, but who knows? Maybe you find out that you're actually super good at making decks.
Because the thing is,
if you don't try, you don't know if you're
exactly
super good at.
And the thing is also that if you build a deck with something that is nobody else does, it can actually do pretty well, because everybody's taken by surprise. They are taking their deck to counter Sabine or whatever, and they cannot not handle your deck, because they are too teched into someone else. But
that's right.
So, but we talked about this a little bit before, so we have started a YouTube channel where we put up the podcast episodes, and we are thinking about what if we are going to do some YouTube content also. But one thing that we talked a little bit about was so you who is a listener, so if you have any fun decks, or a deck you have built, or if you are inspired or from our rambling here now, and want to try to build a deck, please do. Please build a fun deck and share with us, so we can maybe talk about it, or maybe we can, if we get a bunch of decks, we can try them out against each other, and like a community try to can we improve this, or what is good with this deck, or is it this, it's just for fun, or it would be fun to see what our listeners have built. What decks our listeners
that would be
built.
super fun.
And I mean, you can send it in. You can find us on Discord. We will put that in the show notes, and you can also comment on our YouTube channel or whatever. It's a lot of fun to build decks for sure. I will do that more.
It is super fun. So even if, like me, you're not maybe the best at doing it, I mean, do it sometimes. Anyways, and just take that deck to your locals and play it for an evening. That's actually a super fun thing to do, because it's you'll have a deck that no one else played, and that's really nice.
And also, if you're new to the game like I am, it's you learn the game in a very good way if you start trying to build decks, because you starting to go through the cards and you see what there is, and even if you don't play the cards, you know what the card is when the opponent plays them, so you kind of get a better understanding about the game. Because before I started to build my own deck, there were a lot of cards I've never seen that people played against me. I had no clue what they did and how they could be combined. But if I go through cards and I was like, I don't look at all cards when I build a deck, but you get a feeling about it from the game, for the game. So all right. So maybe we should wrap this up a little bit.
I guess so.
A little bit talk about how to build a deck and what to think about. it's very general and it depends on who you are, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's
For
just
sure.
our thoughts, and just don't be afraid to try. I mean, this card games are just try a lot of different things, and maybe after a while you'll notice that, oh, I didn't like, maybe going into a game you're like, oh, I hate playing against control decks.
Yeah.
But I mean, you might love playing the control deck
Yeah.
if you, but if you
For sure.
don't try it, you never know.
You
So
never know. I don't
just
like
try it
playing
out.
them, and I don't like having them as opponents. I just don't like
Yeah,
control
that's,
decks.
you just don't like them. Okay, that's how I am about the aggro decks. I guess.
Yeah. I know you have a very deep hatred against Sabine.
I mean, I wouldn't. It's not. I have a special.
Special relationship with her.
Yeah, I can say that.
For sure. For sure.
I don't mind the players playing Sabine.
No, of
I
course
understand
not.
that
Yeah.
aggro decks need to be in the game because all of the types of decks needs to be
of
in
course.
the game.
Yeah. That's also what, like, when I say
It
that
helps balancing the game. But
Yeah, for sure.
if you love playing aggro decks, go for it. But
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
not for me. So
Yeah, it's the same for me with controls. I don't like to play them, and I don't like to play against them. But I like the player that I play because I understand that people likes that, and it's also it's needed to balance the game out. And also the reason why I don't like to play against them is that because they're hard to play against. I most often lose against them because I have a hard time. So that's why. So so go with whatever fits you well.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, before we leave you guys for the next episode, this podcast is called Always Tell Me the Odds. So, of course, we have a new question this week. And this time it's you, Marcus, who's gonna have to try to figure this out.
It's always fun to see what we cook up here.
I've gone on the theme of card games, and and I, because I really love like these TCGs, and I guess everything started with a normal deck of cards, like the normal, like the hearts, spades, diamonds, a regular deck of cards.
52.
And because I'm amazed of the complexity of a normal deck of cards. It's so brilliant.
So easy, but so complex.
Yeah, it's so complex. And so I just to give people a small insight in how complex a deck of cards actually is. I have a question for you here. So if you really shuffle a normal 52 card deck of standard play cards, shuffle it really well, you randomize the deck, what are the odds of drawing the cards in a perfect order? That is all of these spades in the right order, then all of the hearts, then all of the diamonds, then all of the clubs.
Oh wow, so you draw like all the spades in right order, and then you draw all the twos in right order.
You draw the whole deck in like the right order.
That cannot be a lot.
Of doing that.
Wow,
it's not high. It's not high.
That must be super small. Let's see. That's like, wow. I would say. Let's see. Let's think. 1 in 2,000, maybe. Or do you want the percentage?
That's, I guess, that doesn't matter because it's actually quite of a mean question, I guess, to ask, because the chances are so small that I mean 1 in 2,000 is a super small chance and will probably never happen. It very rarely happen. But the chance of drawing the cards in a 52 card deck is 1 in 10 to the power of 68. For people that doesn't really understand that, is 1 in you can say.
So you take 1 divided by 10.
I mean, 10 to the power of 68 is a 1 followed by 68 zeros.
Yeah. So if you take
So
1
it's
divided by that.
It's actually approximately equal to the number of atoms in our galaxy. So
that is so small.
you could say that probably no one ever have and never will draw if a deck is perfectly like randomized.
That is
You'll
crazy.
never draw it. You'll never draw it in that order, and that's like
That's
the
mind blowing.
ground. Yeah, and that's like the ground that's built on like deck. All these games around decks are built on.
Yeah.
That every game will be different, and that's the beauty of like card games. That because it's so rare that you draw the cards in the same order as you've already done a previous game, you'll almost never draw the same cards in the same order as you've done before. So every game you play will be at least a little bit different from the last game you played. So it's really brilliant.
It's kind of mind blowing when you think about it, but also it's cool that all TCGs, whatever it is, are based on the standard card deck that have been around for quite a while. Yeah, that's crazy. That's 1.
And I mean,
divided to 10 to the power of 68. Did you say that?
TCG, yeah. It's 1 in 10 to the power of 68. So
68,
it's like it's 1 in 1 followed by 68 zeros. So it's there is no name for a number that large. So
yeah.
But yeah.
All right. That's a lot. That's a
lot.
That's cool. Mind-blowing facts for sure. All right. So let's wrap this up. And as we have said many times now, we have a Discord that you can join. We have the link to that in our show notes. And we also have started a YouTube where we started to upload all the episodes. And there hopefully will be some more content there. There is more moving picture and not just podcast with sound. We will continue with the podcast, of course. But we also have the link in the show notes. And you can also find us in both the Swedish Discord for the game and also the international Discord. And we are called Faluin and Dragonfly there. And I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And we'll talk to you again next week. So we say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.